y'all, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, I am Lauren. Today's video is the first of the recruitment series that I am making, and today we will be going over resume writing and also how to find rec letters and what to give the people who are writing you rec letters. I first want to start out by telling y'all a little bit about me. I rushed at the University of Arkansas in the fall of 2018 as a freshman, and I rushed with over 1,700 other girls. Now, I want to preface this by I rushed in an SEC school, which means Greek life is a little bit bigger than most other schools in the country. I made sure to get information from girls who rushed all across the country, anywhere from California to Kansas to Texas, all over, so that all this information in this video series is as applicable to everybody as possible. I wanted to make this video series because before I went through recruitment, I couldn't find a lot of information online, and my mom didn't rush either, so I didn't have a lot of people to talk to about the process of going through recruitment. So I wanted to make this video series so that way you can go into recruitment being the most confident you that there is. This video series will be covering a lot of topics. This first video is obviously going to be covering resumes and recruitment letters. The next video is also going to be covering outfits, where to buy them, what to wear, that sort of thing, along with just kind of tips and tricks on things to keep with you during recruitment. And then the last video is just going to be going over the process of recruitment, along with just tips on what to talk about and that sort of thing. I want to start by going over some statistics that I found while doing some research for this video. The first thing is, out of all the people who I interviewed, it was about 50-50 on whether or not they had had a parent who also went through recruitment. I think this is important because I know I didn't have a parent who had gone through recruitment, so it's a little bit scarier. And so I just want to say, if you don't have a parent, it's not a big deal. It's not going to make or break your recruitment experience. And the same thing also goes for extended family. That was also 50-50. Now, something that was interesting is almost every single girl, it was about 90%, had a friend who had gone through recruitment. And I feel like this is really important. I had this, and it was great because it gave me somebody to talk to and ask questions to, and so they're a great resource to utilize. Now, let's get into the resumes. Don't underestimate the power of a good resume. I personally would recommend making a special resume just for recruitment. About 65% of the girls who I interviewed did this. Once again, if you just use your high school resume, that's fine too, but making a personalized one allows you to really pick the things that you want sororities to know about you. Here is an example of my friend Mallory's resume that she used for recruitment. This is just her high school resume, and once again, it has all the information that you need to share. It just isn't super personal, but once again, it also works great. It has her picture, it has all the categories that she needs, and it worked great for her. Making a special resume allows you to be really intentional with the information that you share. Here is my resume. My friend on Yearbook in high school made it for me. I just got lucky and she offered to make it. And I realized that this is very extra. This is not necessary. It doesn't need to be this fancy. There is no need for it to be this fancy. I just like it because it really shows off who I am and my personality, and it just gives everybody who is going to see it kind of a look into who I am. I really want to emphasize how it looks is not as important as what is on it, which is why using your high school resume like Mallory did is totally fine because it had a lot of fabulous information on it. Let's go into the organization of your resume. And once again, this is just kind of my personal opinion on the most important things to the least important things, but once again, all of it is just how you want to do it and what you want to share. First, I would go with the about you. This is super important. Put at the top of your resume just your name, your phone number, address, your email, all that sort of thing, date of birth. Also, I think it's really important to put the college that you're attending and your major. If you have it, if you're undecided, that's fine too, but make sure to put your graduation date for college. The next section I would put is education. This is your high school name, the address of your high school, your GPA, your SAT or ACT score, or both. If you took both, kudos to you if you did. And also, I would put any AP courses that you took. This just shows that you kind of took the extra step to really apply yourself. Another important thing to put in this section is also the date that you graduated from high school. This could be the exact date or just the month and the year. The next section I would put is your honors and awards. This speaks for itself. You want to show off what you were good at. List everything. People want to see exactly what you excel at, and this shows what you're passionate about. Some examples of these would be honor roll, honor society, any varsity sports or activities, stuff like that. The next section I would do is leadership. This is super important because this shows what you're passionate about and that you took the initiative to really lead the group. Some examples of this are team captain, leading volunteer groups, Bible study leader, stuff like that. Just showing what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. The next section is community service. In case you don't know, all sororities have at least one, if not two, philanthropies that they support every year. This is a really big part of being in a sorority, so this section is really important. Show that you're philanthropic and that you donate your time, and make sure to put dates on how long you volunteered with that organization for. Make sure to list every volunteer opportunity that you took here. The next section that I would talk about is activities. Show that you were involved, and these things can be both in school and out of school. Some examples are sports, arts like theater, choir, any clubs that you were part of, that sort of thing. This section is really important because this is how sororities are going to match you with people to talk to so that you can relate to them while you're talking to them during recruitment. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you write the things that are really important to you in this section. The last section I would put is work. And the reason why I put this last is because it's not necessary to have. Any experience that you're able to write down is great and awesome, but if you don't have any, that's totally fine too. A few last tips I have when you're writing your resume are A, to be detailed, because this allows you, if somebody's writing your rec letter and they don't know you super well, to make it seem more personalized. And most people who are writing your rec letters probably won't know you super well. The second thing I would say is to make sure to put dates with everything that you can on your resume. This just shows that you're dedicated to either a sport or a club or both over a long period of time. So now that we've covered resumes, which if you still have any questions after going through that section, feel free to comment them below and I will try to answer them in the next video for you. Now on to the second part of this video, which is recommendation letters. These can be really daunting, but I promise they aren't that bad. First, I want to go over what a rec letter is, just in case somebody doesn't know. Recommendation letters are letters written to a specific sorority for your benefit by an alumni of that sorority. These letters are a way for a sorority to get a glimpse of who you are from a person who knows you well. And I want to emphasize, these don't need to be from an alumni of that specific university. It can be from any alumni of that sorority across the country. With that being said, having it from an alumni of that university can help. The first step of recommendation letters is finding people to write them. This is the scariest part, I promise. I recommend trying to find around 2 alumni from each sorority to write you rec letters. 2 people who know you who can write for your benefit. I also found that at my university, this number was pretty easy to reach for each sorority. From my experience, having or not having a rec letter is not going to determine whether or not you get into a specific sorority. These can only help you. From the data I collected, the most accessible way to find people to write you rec letters is just from family and friends. From the data I collected, the most accessible way to find alumni to write you rec letters is just by asking family and friends. And also it can be really good if you know somebody whose mom was in a sorority that you need, ask them and see if you're able to get them a connection to a rec letter that they might need. If you just ask someone, they're more than likely going to be happy to write you one. Family connections is also a really popular option. Some examples of these could be parents, coworkers, family, friends, and also just extended family. When possible, it's best to get rec letters from people who know you really well because that means that they're going to be a lot more personal. If you're having a hard time finding alumni from a certain sorority or maybe multiple sororities, post about it on Facebook. Or have your parents post on their Facebook because more than likely they'll have connections to people who are alumni of those sororities. Here are some really good examples of 2 of my friends who did this. They not only explain why they need these, but also the specific sororities that they need. You're most likely going to get a lot of comments of people saying, oh yeah, I'm an alumni of that sorority, I'd be more than happy to help you out. And you are more than welcome to use either of these as templates to post on your Facebook if you need to. I've linked below a Google file that has all these templates, and all the things that I will mention in this video will be linked down there. Now that you know how to find the alumni to write your rec letters, here's how I went about getting my information to them. The first big thing that I would mention is make sure to stay organized through this because it can get really confusing. I first created a Google Doc with all the sororities on my campus. As I found alumni from each sorority, I would just write their name below the specific sorority that I had already written on there. This allowed me to keep track of A, the names of the people, and also how many rec letters I had for each sorority. Once I had sent them a packet, which we will talk about in a second, I would just strike out their name on the list, and that way I knew that I was done with my part of getting them my information. This was a really good way for me to keep track of who I had and hadn't gotten in contact with. Now on to the packet. I have printed mine out, and I will also just show it on the screen because I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to see as I go through each component of it. I want to start out by saying mine is very extra. Yours does not need to be this extra. I am a neat freak, I am a little bit OCD, and so it just made me really happy to have everything match. You don't need to do this, it's totally fine if you don't. First thing I really want to emphasize is just to know how each sorority wants their rec letter submitted and what information they want submitted with it. Every sorority is different. Some want it submitted online, some want it submitted through mail, some want specific forms filled out along with the letter, that sort of thing. This is the stuff that you need to know about. It's really important to read through this information thoroughly and take notes on it if you need to. In order to find this information, just type in your university and then say Greek rec letters right after it and click search. And I'm going to show you how I found mine right here. The first link to pop up should be the Greek Life page at your school. It should show you how every sorority wants their rec letters submitted. From here, I just took this information and made a separate Google Doc for each sorority that listed all this information in a really easy to understand way for each sorority. And here's an example of my one for Zeta. I first start out by just saying thank you because remember, these people are donating their time to help you out. And then I just say, here are the following instructions on how X sorority wants their rec letters submitted. In this example, Zeta wanted theirs submitted through the mail, so I just stated that. And then I also state that I had enclosed in this packet a letter that was already pre-stamped and pre-addressed for them to use. If somebody is writing a rec letter for you, you are the one who needs to pay for the postage and pre-address it for them. That's just common courtesy. In this case, Zeta also wanted an MIS form completed. To make sure that they knew how to find that, I listed instructions on the link that they needed to go to and then instructions on the different tabs that they needed to click in order to find that form. They also wanted a resume submitted, and I told them that I had already included one for them, but I would be more than happy to send them another one if that's what they needed. And then at the very end, and this is also really important, make sure to say all letters are due by X date, whether it be August 1st, July 1st, that sort of thing. The next thing is a cover page. For this page, I used the same header as I had on my resume, but I left it blank except for a photo of me. This allowed me to print my thank you note on it so that I could also send that with the packet. This is an example of my cover page just so that y'all know what it looked like. I wanted this page so that whenever I needed to print out the instructions or my thank you notes and that sort of thing, I could print it on top of this so that it all cohesively went together in my packet. This isn't necessary, it's just something that I like to do because it made everything feel a lot more put together for me. Some examples of how I use this were for my thank you notes. I printed the instructions that I just explained on it. I also printed my photo and any legacy information I had too. All the components that I just mentioned form the base of my packet. And in case you don't know what a legacy is, you're a legacy if your mom or your grandma or your aunt was in that sorority. It doesn't have to be at that university, but just as an alumni of that sorority. Once I had all this information together, I just made a document with it so that way I could have it all in one place. And this is the example of my PDF document that I created for my recruitment packet. The third thing that I would include in my packet is a personalized letter to that person. For your convenience, I've created a template for you to use right here, and it will also be linked below in that file that I mentioned. I use this format for all of them. It basically just said, thank you for writing me a letter, I'm attending X school in the fall, and just what I had enclosed in the packet for them to use to write my letter. The template that I used made it super easy and fast to personalize each note to the person who is writing me a rec letter. So I would really recommend that you either use this or some sort of variation of it because it's really important just to kind of introduce yourself and say thank you to them. The last thing I would do is print everything that I've mentioned above out onto the cover page so that it all matched. And just to kind of show you a physical version of it, I printed it all out to show you guys. So this is my resume. As you can see, it's got the Loren Davis and the pink little watercolor thing. I have blocked out all of my personal information. The next thing is the template for my thank you note, and then I also included a photo of me because sometimes they have to submit that. Here's the instructions page. As you can see, it also has the watercolor with my name on it and the instructions. And then the last thing, and I would send this to people who I was a legacy of, and it was just my legacy information. As you can see, I only had one and that sort of thing. And I would enclose all this, and I would also print out a physical photo of me. You also don't need to do that, but in case they had to send one in, I just like to print that out so that they had it. Once I printed out all of those documents I just showed you, I would slide them into an 8.5 by 11 inch envelope, just the white ones that you can find at Walmart. If they needed an envelope to send in the recommendation letter physically, I would then post that and address it and slide that into the envelope also for them to use. And a little pro tip, if you're addressing an envelope, just type it onto your computer and print it out onto one of those address labels and slide that on. It'll look so much cleaner if it's typed rather than handwritten. Once everything was ready for that alumni, if they were within driving distance, I'd actually go to their house and give it to them by hand, and then if they weren't home, I'd obviously put it in their mailbox and just text them saying that I dropped it off. If they weren't within driving distance, I would compile an email with all the information they needed and send it to them with just, once again, a thank you so much for writing me a rec letter. I hope all this helps. Let me know if I can supply you with any extra information that you may need. And I cannot emphasize this point enough. get this information to the person writing a rec letter at least a month before the rec letter is due. They are taking time to write this for you, and they take a while to write, so make sure that you are giving them a lot of time and a big grace period to send this in or email it in or whatever it may be, because there's a lot of information to look over. And like I was saying, for like the Zeta one, they have to fill out an extra form to use, so make sure to give them a lot of time to do this for you. And then an example, if this is due August 1st, get it to them by July 1st, that sort of thing. Drink water, stay hydrated. After you give everything to them or email it to them, that sort of thing, send them a physical thank you note. This is really important because, as I've emphasized over and over again, they're taking time out of their day to write a letter that will only benefit you. So make sure that you are saying thank you. This is a common courtesy that most people don't do these days, so it'll also just help you stand out to them. And if you don't have their address, that's okay. Just send them a second email just saying thank you so much, I really appreciate it, that sort of thing. I hope all this information was really helpful to you guys, and if you have any more questions, feel free to comment them below and I will try to answer them in the next video at the beginning. These things are really important, but they aren't going to make or break your recruitment experience, so if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. The reason why these are important is because they help sororities get a feel for who you are before they can actually meet you. This allows them to kind of come up with people to talk to you, so that way you have the best chance of connecting with them as possible. They want to match girls with you who can relate to you, and that's why putting activities and that sort of thing is important on your resume. All the examples I showed and templates I mentioned will be linked below in a Google file. Feel free to use them, it's totally fine if you don't, and feel free to edit them a little bit too. Make sure to like and subscribe for this video, and if there's anything that you want more clarification on or anything like that, feel free to comment them below. Make sure to come back next week when I go over outfits, aka what to wear and where to find it, and also just things to keep with you during recruitment. I'm also going to be going over how to connect with sororities before recruitment starts. I hope y'all have a great day. Bye!